Well, something really odd happened today, and it's so odd that I thought I'd come to you and share it because a Liberal finance minister, a senior Liberal cabinet minister, actually said something that was true today. And it's in this CBC article here. So it's Chrystia Freeland, and the title of the CBC article is Freeland Warns of Difficult Days Ahead as Canada's Economy Shows Signs of Weakness. So in this article, Chrystia Freeland, who's Canada's finance minister, so she's deputy prime minister, she's essentially in charge of the economic policy of Canada, said the following, and just wait for it. Our economy will slow. There will be people whose mortgages rates will rise. Businesses will no longer be booming. Our unemployment rate will no longer be at its record low. That's going to be the case in Canada. There are some difficult days ahead for Canada's economy. To say otherwise would be misleading. Okay, well, she spoke the truth, but that's not going to come as any surprise to you. And she's talking about being misleading. I want to play a clip for you guys from Justin Trudeau in a press conference a couple of years ago. Remember about 2 years ago when the federal deficit, the numbers of the pandemic's spending started to come out, and they were record high, and people were going, should the government be spending at this level? This is a big problem, right? So, Chrystia Freeland's talking about the reality of how bad the Canadian economy is, and I want to talk about that in a second. But listen to this clip from Justin Trudeau. This is from 2 years ago.
So as a federal government, given the historically low interest rates and the low debt servicing costs that we have, and given our extremely strong fiscal position going in, we decided to take on that debt to prevent Canadians from having to do it.
Okay, you guys remember when he said that? When he said that because Canada had historically low interest rates, that he was going to take on debt so that Canadians didn't have to? Well, guess what? Today, because of all that debt spending and because of the monetary policy that the Bank of Canada has enacted, and a bunch of other issues as well that are related to Liberal policies, we are actually seeing record high interest rates in Canada because the Bank of Canada has moved to try and slow record inflation by raising interest rates. And today, inflation numbers came out for the previous month, and really there hasn't been a significant cool off. So even though the Bank of Canada is raising rates and making your mortgages more expensive, etc., there's a big problem here because inflation isn't cooling. Now, going back to Freeland's comments today, these factual comments about things being really bad in Canada, and going back to what Trudeau said about him spending money, he's making it so that Canadians didn't have to shoulder the debt. Well, guess who's shouldering the debt today? It's you, right? It's you. So I have to go back to this. 2 years ago, I remember that this is an article in Maclean's where it's talking about how, and I'll read you the line here, Canada's national debt could hit 1.4 trillion by 2024, blah, blah, blah. But the Liberals are essentially projecting that the country will avoid fiscal ruins thanks to a combination of low interest rates. Well, we don't have low interest rates today. How did they not see this coming? Conservatives have literally been saying this the whole time. You can't just spend into oblivion and not expect that an inflationary crisis was going to happen. So today, for Freeland to come out and give this dismal take on but accurate take on the Canadian economy without having a plan on how to fix it, when they put us into that situation is unbelievable. It's like, how do these people have jobs? This is so irresponsible and insane, right? Going back to that clip that I played for Trudeau, these people, Trudeau and Freeland, they consciously made decisions to put Canada into such high levels of debt, assuming that interest rates would never rise, which is insane. And what happens when interest rates rise on government borrowing? It means that we don't have the ability, we're paying more money to pay off the credit card, essentially, right? It's like if you've got money on your credit card and the credit card company raises the interest rates, the cost for you to pay that interest payment if you're carrying a balance every month it's going to go up, right? The same thing is happening to government debt right now too, is the service costs of our debt is increasing, which means that there's less money for things like roads, building hospitals, or, you know, basic social programming as well too. And these people, like, how did they not understand this? It's so misleading. So for her today to give such a dismal take and then say that to say otherwise would be misleading, well, what else have they been doing? All they've been doing is misleading Canadians for years. That adding to the country's debt, being fiscally irresponsible, it's led to where we are today. I'm going to end with this because I want to give you a sense of how crazy this statement is. So for those of you who might not have a background in finance or economic, there's a concept called consumer confidence, and I encourage you to read about it. And consumer confidence, consumer spending, oversimplified, it contributes to the nation's economy. Obviously, it can consumer spending obviously has a huge impact on our gross domestic product or other forms of economic growth or output. Now, many economists are suggesting that this combination of high inflation and higher interest rates in Canada are leading us to a major recession, which is what Freeland was talking about today. But when it comes to consumer spending, consumer confidence, there's a lot of different factors that will play into whether or not you feel comfortable spending your money, right? And things like high inflation, things like uncertainty about jobs or a looming recession, those are all factors that figure into whether or not you want to spend money and whether or not the economy is going to grow. So when you have the nation's finance minister coming out and essentially saying, it's not looking good here, folks, and then leaving it at that, what kind of a message does that say to businesses or to you about whether or not you should be spending money, whether or not that businesses should be investing in growth? It's basically saying things are really bad here. So you've got the country's finance minister coming out and making this statement, which absolutely will affect consumer confidence. You know, like, how can it not? She's the finance minister. Without having a detailed plan to look at fixing some of the structural issues that our country is facing when it comes to inflation. Like, for example, energy prices. Why is the Trudeau government increasing the carbon tax when we're already seeing record high fuel costs, which is a huge factor in inflation right now? One of many issues. So, and I put out a press release on this today. I'll link it in the video feed. This statement for her, it's shocking that she spoke the truth, but it's even more shocking at how irresponsible it was, given that this government has misled Canadians, that, you know, deficit spending, adding to our debt has had, you know, we're putting money out so Canadians don't have to pay for it. Like, think about that. Think about how crazy that is. And suggesting that somehow all of the spending would never hurt us. And now today saying, you know, like to come out and make this statement with no plan, I can't. And this is why these people need to go. Like, this is no way to manage an economy. If they were managing a household spending, they'd be in serious trouble, right? Anyway, I think it's just really important. Particularly today, I've been watching the news coverage a little bit of these inflation numbers, et cetera. It's really important to share these types of videos so that people can understand that some of these statements that are coming out of the Liberal government, they have a huge impact on the Canadian economy. And I just want to let you know that on the Conservative Party side of things, we have obviously been fighting this approach, and we've been putting forward suggestions on how the Liberal government could be addressing some of these issues immediately. For example, we put forward that major motion that the Liberals voted against to, at the very least, ensure that there's no tax increases next year on things like the carbon tax. Like, that's the bare minimum that we should be doing. But obviously we have other ideas too that the Liberals keep voting against as well. But we are fighting for you. Please share this video. And, you know, if you're talking to someone, think about this. 2 years ago, you had Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland saying, oh yeah, we can spend money. We're borrowing so that Canadians don't have to shoulder this debt. And you know what? Interest rates are so low. Everything's fine. Flash forward to today, and you've got Canada's finance minister basically saying the economy's in the can. Buckle up, bad days ahead. Well, whose fault is that? Ridiculous. Share this video. Working hard for you in Calgary. Have a great day.